Turn it off.
I think so. It's pretty nasty, yeah.
Hello, sir. How are you? Good. I should probably get rid of this phone. It's a big old stage.
I call to order the September 24th, 2018 regular business meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request everyone in the audience to please silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Please stand for the pledge to the flag, which is where? It's up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Present.
Ms. Bolton? Present. Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Messer?
Present.
Mr. Morosky?
Here.
President Jones?
Here. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting September 17, 2018, and the regular business meeting September 17, 2018.
So moved.
Is there a second? Was there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Does anyone have any kudos? Ms. Bolton?
Thank you. As I found out, and I know that the administration already knew this, and I appreciate the folks in public affairs proceeding with this, but I guess this is National Resource Coordinator Week. Nationwide and actually worldwide, as we know, resource coordinators are all over the country. So we do want to make sure that we are following suit and honoring those people that are so crucial to our success.
Thank you. Any other kudos? That's a reason to applaud. Thank you. Any other kudos? Ms. Bates, please give us the retirements.
Yes, we have a number of teachers who are retiring as of June 1st who have applied for that. And their names are Mary Susan Enkenbauer, Elaine Y. Berry, Deborah L. Bailey, Helene L. Cowett, Mary Ellen F. Dwyer, Julie F. Howell, Nancy Jo Kappa, Madeline Arswad Mohammed, and Holly J. Meckley. And we thank them for their service to our children and wish them well in the future.
Thank you. We are now at the item on our agenda for hearing the public. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak, and Mrs. Wagner will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up. Please refrain from discussing any personnel items. When your name is called, please come to the podium to speak. Looks like we only have one speaker. Ms. Julie Sellers.
Good evening, members of the board. I would like to, first I would like to say that I have a resolution that I would like to share that is in opposition of House Bill 658. And I would hope that I can give you this resolution and that the district would also write a resolution that is in alignment with this and that it is more district specific for our teachers. Should I just give that to Phyllis? Okay. And secondly, last week, most of you are aware that teacher allocation took place, and we were in agreement with 90% of the fixes in order to make sure that all of our students are in alignment with the right class sizes. But what there were just a few positions, three schools where we had a conflict, but the one is West High, and they added no additional staff. And we requested that they replace the team of teachers that they cut last year. So as we were going through their numbers today, they are reallocating teachers, but in order to do that, there are still, in the 7th grade reading, there will still be 3 out of the 5 classes that will be overloaded. 7th grade ELA, there will be 3 out of 5 classes that will be overloaded. Math, 7th grade will have 1 overload. 8th grade will have an overload, but all of the other ones are close to being overloaded. ELA, 8th grade will be overloaded. Science is overloaded. The social studies will be overloaded, and some of those are even over the numbers of what is even allowed to be considered for overload, and the foundation of public safety. And so the West High had approved a plan that would, through their ILT, that plan was not taken into consideration, and that was just to have the band students pulled out for the 7th grade, which I didn't think would fix it because there are also overloads in the 8th grade. So tomorrow, this new plan is supposed to take place, and as it stands, the 7th grade is just having 13 students removed from their rosters out of 178, and 7th grade has they're just having 15 students taken out of the 8th grade team, which still leaves overloads for both of those. And in order to fix it, they're creating 7th and 8th grade combination classrooms, and they're going to teach 8th grade curriculum. So they are moving 7th graders into 8th grade classes. Now, we have been arguing about these overloads at West High. It's creating an unsafe environment, and it's not right. If there is a school, when you talk about equity, if there is a school in our district that needs more resources, then they deserve more resources. But the way they want to fix it is not the way they want to fix it. The district didn't even agree with the numbers. Now, they said when they went out and did walkthroughs, there weren't that many kids. Well, they didn't ask where were all the rest of the kids. But this plan is supposed to go into effect tomorrow. And it upsets me. It's upsetting. There was already one of the math teachers in 7th and 8th grade who's resigned because of what is going on there. And there's going to be more teachers who resign with what's going on there. So I would suggest that somehow somebody goes and figures out the proper staffing for this school. And we recommended to have 4 extra teachers because West High is a school that is continually getting more kids all year. And now because Dater is overloaded, they are getting all the ESL students that cannot enroll at Dater. So they're getting ESL students and they don't even have the supports for that. And it's becoming an environment that is very difficult. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment, not specifically about this, but when I read the prelude to the announcements and we said 3 minutes, for those, I think it's important that the community know that Ms. Sellers is the president of the Federation of Teachers, and by contract and agreement, she is allowed, her time at the podium is waived. So that's why you didn't hear the bell come on.
Thank
That's
you.
all. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Okay. So moving on to presentation, Superintendent Mitchell, would you please introduce our first presenter?
Yes, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to change the order of the presentation and allow the students of this beautiful, wonderful school to be able to present first. And so I'd like to introduce the principal extraordinaire of this school. She has done an outstanding job over the last several years to really make a significant positive impact in this school, and that is Angel Roddy.
Thank you, Superintendent Mitchell. First of all, on behalf of the students, the families, and the staff of Mount Airy, welcome to our school.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the opportunity to get to show you some of the great things that are going on here. We're very proud of what we do. And so in order to showcase this, we're going to showcase our flight program, which is our Vision 2020. That's going to be the focus of what we're doing, but it's a little bit of how we got here. So because this is a true team school, we're going to separate it out a little bit. One of our teachers is going to do a presentation. We've got our PTO president, we've got our CRC rep, and they're all going to talk to you about the ways they tie things into flight. And then we've got a real treat when we get to the actual flight presentation in just a bit. So first, I'd like to introduce our 4th grade teacher extraordinaire, Ms. Deneen Fields, who is going to talk to us about some of the community impact.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I'm just going to share a little bit about the Mount Airy impact of COC partnerships on the conditions necessary for learning. $92.3 increase in kindergarten students with early childhood education experience, from 26% in 2016 and 17 to 50% in 2017 and 2018. 74% of the families in the Mount Airy attendance boundary chose Mount Airy COC over charters or non-public, one of the highest neighborhood enrollment rates in the district. Stability of student enrollment increased. Students returning after the summer increased from 56.5% in the fall of 2017 to 83.42% in the fall of 2018. Students who participated in extended day enrichment in 2017 and 2018 had higher attendance than school-wide attendance. 94.33% attendance for the after-school students, 91.88 overall attendance. 33% increase in the on-track literacy scores for incoming kindergarten students, 51% in 2012, 2013, to 68% in 2016-17, as well as 2017-2018. Our community partnerships and family engagement set the stage for success for our Vision 2020 flight program. At this time, I would like to introduce our PTO president, Ms. Erica Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just want to tell you quickly that on behalf of the children and families of the Mount Airy Tigers, we thank the board and the community for your continued support through our new Vision 2020 flight program. We believe that the flight program will pique students' interest in learning, even more by providing a 21st century fun and innovative way for them to explore, grow, and really soar. With this technology, our children will be able to look forward to opportunities that they may not have otherwise obtained. So we thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to helping our children soar through Vision 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick Shore. I'm with the Cincinnati Recreation Commission, the College Hill Recreation Center, and we'd like to welcome you to Mount Airy. Thank you for this flight program. We're very excited about it and the opportunity. You may be asking, how does CRC fit into this picture? CRC and CPS have a lot of partnerships across the board. And 5 years ago, we were asked to come to the table to be able to come over and help do programming. It's interesting, over the last 5 years, that partnership has developed. Over the last 2 years, we have a licensed day camp here at the center, here at the school. What that means is we can take vouchers, Hamilton County Job and Family Services vouchers. What it also means is that we have a balanced program working directly with the school to be able to do reinforce reading programs and flight and STEM programs in our after-school program. And so that we can talk directly with teachers and administrators about how we can reinforce those things right after school. We have 37 students in our program this year. That's up by about 15 from last year. Those numbers continue to climb. We also serve 70 kids a day hot meals through the Hunger Alliance. And so with the stability of us being here every day, to be able to support the academics through the STEM and through the reading and through the math and those things, and also feeding the kids every day, we're excited to see the attendance soar in regards to that. That number, we know that when kids are involved after school, those numbers are high, and to see those again remind us the kind of impact that we're making on these kids. And so we're very excited about Flight. We're going to continue. We have in our program, we do art, we do nature. We're integrating the technology this year through Flight, reinforcing what they're doing in the school. So we're a community partner who have helped to make Mount Airy a wonderful place. And so we appreciate your support and your leadership and your vision through Flight. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Pope, who is the president of the Mount Airy Community Council.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And welcome to our school. My name is Gladys Pope, and I am, first, I'm the secretary here at Mount Airy School. I've been here since 2014 under the amazing leadership of Principal Roddy, and been fortunate to work with an incredible staff here at the school. But I did get involved with Mount Airy Town Council as a way to sort of help the students. And of course, as you know, there's problems in the community that can cause some issues in the school and vice versa. So I did get involved with Mount Airy Town Council. I eventually became president of Mount Airy Town Council. And through that, we've been able to create a partnership with the school where we are able to sort of work together to resolve and remedy some of the problems that are community problems, but also translate to problems here at the school. Thankfully, we've had an amazing partnership. We work well together with the school. Everything has been very cohesive, and we look forward to having a wonderful partnership with the school. We've put on events, community engagement events like a fall festival, a back-to-school bash where we had free haircuts for the kids, and it was sponsored by some community businesses. So we look forward to doing a lot more great work here in Mount Airy as a community, a lot more great work here in Mount Airy as a school, and we're very excited about all the Vision 2020 and the Flight, and everybody's excited. The community is excited as a whole. The pamphlets that we had here kind of announcing it went very fast and were very well received at our last town council meeting. So the community as a whole is very excited about the work we're doing here at Mount Airy, and we're just glad you're here to hear some of the things about our wonderful school, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now for the fun portion of the program. Are you ready for this? All right, I'm going to bring up Ms. Apgar and Ms. Fesher. Ms. Apgar is our Flight teacher. She teaches the technology that's involved within this program. Ms. Fesher is our other technology teacher. They work cohesively to make sure that our students get the best experience possible, and they have some treats for you. So, all right, ladies.
Do you have Flight? All right, hi. My name is Krista Apgar. This is my 8th year at Mount Airy. I was a 5th and 6th grade math and science teacher, and when Flight came about, I talked to Ms. Rowdy, and I loved technology, and I used it every day, and so now I get to teach it every day, and the kids just love coming to my class, and they're always asking, what are we doing, what are we doing? So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we are doing. So we want to give our kids real-world experiences. We want to make them more marketable into their high school careers, and then eventually after high school, either they can continue into college or find a career, and everybody knows technology is just everywhere. So we really want to help our kids reach those goals. We are connecting students with multiple learning styles and really just keeping their engagement levels just above and over the top. So one of the things that we are doing is we have virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality goggles. So we are trying to give our kids real-world connections, and we're trying to really bridge the gap. I guess I should have. We're trying to bridge the gap between content and experiences. And as a regular classroom teacher, I could talk about the waves and the ocean all day long, but if a kid has never been there, they just don't get that content. So now we can put them on a beach and they can experience the waves and all that through our goggles. So we actually have some goggles that you guys can test out for a quick second. You just put them up to your forehead and there's a sensor and it will automatically put them on. As the classroom teacher, I can control what they're seeing. I can take them places, but we have demo for you on that. It's virtual, the augmented reality where they can hold something in their hand and the camera will turn it into something else. And yeah, go ahead and just hand each one of them a goggle. No. Oh, yes, him. We have 9 of them. We have one for everybody, so you can just hand them all. I think they all have a little different piece. We took the straps off, so you really just have to put them to your eyes. It shouldn't mess up hair too much. So you just put them up. It should come on, and then obviously you can look up and down and left and right. Some of them need a cube for the augmented. So that one, you'll hold the cube in front of you, and you get to manipulate what's on the camera.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you can just tilt your chin and it'll keep scrolling for you, or you can, turn your head. But I think each of you are kind of viewing something different within your goggles. But the content is endless that we can provide the students using these.
Oh, I'm in Kilimanjaro. The rainforest. Oh, that's pretty neat.
So again, you can see.
Meeting over. No.
So again, you can see that the kids just get very excited when they hear that we're going to be doing these, and they don't realize the content that they're actually learning from them. Very nice. Well, they're going to trade because they all want to see what everybody else has. Cool. The one you use the cube to move the shark or the frog, whatever you're seeing. So you can bring it in closer or look at all different sides of it. So move your cube, spin it around in your hand. There you go.
Where's the cube? Melanie, no. It's a cube. The cube. Oh, you hold it up while that's on?
Can you see it, Melanie?
You see the cube while that's on?
There's a shape inside of there. It turns, one of them's a frog and one is a shark. So you're seeing and then you're moving. I don't know if she has the right one or not. You have the shark, so then you would use the cube to turn the shark in different directions.
Is your class overloaded? I'd like to come.
I am not.
If you got space, I'll come.
Okay. Yes. So virtual reality is just one of the things that we're doing in the flight class. We also have some dash robots and drones. The students are learning how to code, which is the wave of the future. They can learn how to make an app or learn how to make video games, or there's endless jobs using coding, and security, cybersecurity and all that uses coding. So we are bringing that all the way down to kindergarten and first grade can code the robots and make them move. The older kids, we can give them the drones and have them fly around. We also are getting a television called a Z-Space. It's also a virtual reality and augmented reality. However, more than one user can view the content at a time, so that multiple students can put the glasses up and they can manipulate the resources that's in those learning labs. And lastly, we are doing 3D design and printing, where the students are learning spatial concepts and how to create, prototype, test, and design solutions to problems. And so we had a problem posed to us where we wanted to gift you with something from Mount Airy. And so my 5th graders and 3rd grade actually came up with a design for you. And so my Men of More will present to you something that the students created and designed themselves within the 3D lab.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Can I shake your hand?
I think
Here,
there's
they
one
didn't get
down
one.
here and one on the front row. Who did not get one? We had 9 of them.
Yeah, if there's an extra, just in case somebody needs it.
Okay, so those were created by our students.
I'll give it to Laura.
Okay, so I think I'm supposed to say cue the video. Is that correct?
Put my keys on.
So how exciting is that our kids get to experience that every day? And the teachers are amazing. They're able to do things. We're teaching our staff as well, because as you all know, we're not used to a
know.
lot of this new technology, so.
Miss Roddy,
Yes.
it looks like the young men are leaving.
Oh, come
Is
here.
it,
Thank them.
yeah, is it possible that they can just stay for like 2 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to show the video that we made for the Vision 2020 for our flight program. This is the first time we've seen it, so we're excited to see how it goes. And then I want to share just another minute about what's going on at Mount Airy, and we'll be done. Go ahead and cue the video. Vision 2020 is an incredible attempt by the district to provide specialized programming for all students in the district. We have amazing families who care so much about their kids. So we survey the community, we survey our families, we survey our teachers and our staff, and our families and our community really like the technology piece. What we're calling it is FLIGHT, Formative Learning Through Integrated Technology Education. We're looking at the technology and how we can incorporate it into various parts of the academics and how we can help our students become more prepared for college and career. So we're looking at things like virtual reality, where our students would not otherwise have an opportunity to explore those things, so that we're not showing them pictures of the Grand Canyon. We can take them to the Grand Canyon. Part of our plan involves our students going out into the community to experience technology that is in their everyday life. Things like at the car shop down the street, where they can see the new technology that's being included into the cars and into the advertising of the cars and to all of the different aspects that had to come from somebody. We really want them to be ready. That's our goal. We want them to be comfortable. And we really think that in exposing them to technology and knowing that you can go to college, it gives them a lot of choices. It's going to be great. Okay, that was very true, very true. Just, it was a little shocking to see. But we are very excited about the Vision 2020 program and all of the opportunities that it will afford our students. And we thank you very much for bringing it to our neighborhood schools, because our kids are fabulous and we are so excited to see what happens. But in addition to all of this, we want to share, this is a true team effort. As you can see, we have a lot of folks here because we care about our school, we care about our kids. And we've made some great progress that I just have to share because they worked so hard. Our kids really did. We earned a C on our overall average report card, which we're not done yet, but we're very, very proud of where we've come. Our gap closing was an A, so I mean, we're really working hard to close the gap. but our teachers show up each and every day, and they give 110% of everything they have, all of our staff, for our kids. And again, we want to thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you all of the great things that are going on here.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roddy. Before our young men go, well, first of all, I want to thank you on behalf of the board, on the full board, for allowing us to visit your beautiful school. And for those who have not gone around the building and and read all the little sayings and things that are posted that are very inspirational, I can tell you I was impressed when I came and watched that. I think that's very supportive and helpful and just helps to boost the spirit of the students. So that's very nice. But it would be great if we could meet the young men, if they could tell us their names and what grade. I know they're eager to go home.
It's been a long day.
These are our more men, right?
Men of more, yep.
Okay, men of more.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ryan. I'm in the 6th grade. Welcome to my area.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan.
I am a men of more. Men,
I hear you.
organized, respectful, and educated.
Wonderful.
Amen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Trey. I'm in grade 4, and I'm in men of more. Men, organized, respectful, and educated.
Great.
My name is Trenton Porterfield, and I'm in I'm in 4th grade. I am in men of more. Men, organized, respectful, and educated.
Hi, my name is Jaquan. I'm in 4th grade. I'm in men of more. Men, organized, respectful, and educated.
Wonderful.
This is Mr. Benton. He heads our Men of More. So.
And I am Mr. Benton. Although I am a kindergarten teacher, I'm also the facilitator for the Men of More here. And thanks to Ms. Roddy for allowing me to decorate for this event.
Thank you. Thank you.
And there's somebody who didn't get one. We still have one, so someone did not get one.
Our treasurer. And so before the young men leave, I'd like if we could open the floor for questions or comments by board members. That would be great. If they have none for the young men, then we can excuse them. Questions or comments from board members? You got one? Ms. Copeland Dansby?
Well, I know you guys are ready to get home, so I'll kick us off and let you get a chance to get out of here. I am so extremely proud of you. You are amazing. Thank you for your gift. I want you to give yourself a hand clap.
Thank you very much.
I love it. And I want you to keep working hard in your MORE program. What I wanted to say to our illustrious principal and to our administration here, thank you guys. You do, and your full team, and that you guys are doing an amazing job. I have participated with a couple initiatives in this community, I want to say 4 to 5 years ago, and I see a dramatic turnaround. Your school community partnerships are so important for all of our district and extremely important to me. So when I hear us be able to talk about how we are piecing together our community learning centers, our PTO, the town council or Mount Airy Town Council, those things are super duper important. So keep up the good work. Thank you for what you're doing, and please let us know how we can continue to help you. Our neighborhood schools rock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Messer?
Yeah, and I just will echo everything that Erica just said, and then also to call out, is it, I think, D'Amica? Yes, who greeted me with the biggest smile at the front door. So the men don't just have more, the women have more too. And you greeted me and took me down and helped me find the meeting room, and I want to say thank you, and just a shout out to Ms. Pope. I do totally agree in that collaboration. As a former community council president, the heart of our neighborhood was our school. And having you inside this building is a big asset to CPS, so thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. Bolton?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam President. I echo what everyone else has said, and certainly as from a neighboring neighborhood of College Hill, I am so proud of what's happening at Mount Airy. I know that it all started, very frankly, with the selection of your principal, with the creation of a community learning center, with the creation of a school-based health center, and also a highly qualified staff in virtually every single room. And I think it has revolutionized the whole north central corridor of this city and of this district. And I want to make sure when people know that we have a C overall, that includes places like Mount Airy, Mount Washington, Roberts, Fairview, Covedale, Clark, Montessori. The reality for all of us is that you all are doing what is needed to be done and having tremendous success. And it's been, to our superintendent's point, it's always that slow, steady, incremental effort, but always consistent and always heroic. This has been a heroic change for a school, and I feel very strongly about it. So congratulations, and the kids are great, staff is phenomenal, and the principal is certainly gifted.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Again, once again, and to the general community, thank you for inviting us to your school. We look forward to seeing you soon, and keep up the good work. Thanks. Superintendent Mitchell, you want to introduce our next presenter?
Yes, and right before I introduce our next presentation, just also want to highlight the fact that Mount Airy not only moved from an F to an A in gap closing, but they also increased their performance index points 11.1, which is no easy feat, and so they have done a tremendous job. Thank you. So next I'd like to introduce our Deputy Superintendent, Tiane Amat, along with the Director for Curriculum and Instruction as Emily Campbell and the Director for Research and Evaluation, Connie Solano. They're going to provide for you an update on our report card standing across our district and give you some highlights, and then also talk to you about what we're doing to make some improvements. And this is as a result of the fact that about 2 weeks ago, the report card came out from the state of Ohio. So we'd just like to give you a brief overview of that report card. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have Emily Campbell, Director of Curriculum, and Connie Solano from Performance and Accountability, and the presentation will be in 3 parts. Connie will speak to the components of the report card and just give a brief overview. I will discuss the data and the improvement, and then Emily Campbell, Director of Curriculum, will talk about our next steps. So we'll open up with Connie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to present to you this evening. So what I wanted to show you is some new elements to the report card for the 17-18 school year. This is the first year that all districts are receiving 1 overall grade on the report card. And of course, we still have our 6 components, which are achievement, gap closing, K-3 literacy, progress, which is also value added, graduation rate, and prepare for success. So underneath achievement, we have performance index, that's nothing new, but we do have some new indicators. The traditional indicator for grades 3 through 8 and the end of course include proficiency rate. So if a subject and grade level received 80% of their students who were proficient, you got an indicator. This year is the first year that the end of course proficiency rate is only based on first-time takers. They did not include repeaters. Instead, what they did was create an indicator for those repeaters. And basically, what they did was they looked at the percent of kids who retook a end-of-course exam, and we received an indicator if we had enough of those scores improve. And so we actually met that indicator. It's the end-of-course improvement. It's new for this year. Chronic absenteeism has always been reported on the report card under the details page, but this is the first time we actually were being measured on it. It was an additional indicator under achievement. And of course, gifted as well. Gap closing is a little bit different this year. In the past, the state would give us a percent that each of the subgroups would have to meet. This year, they changed the methodology, and now it's performance index. So every subgroup has its own performance index goal that they had to meet. If they didn't meet the goal, they could gain points by showing an improvement over the previous year. So this was something new for this year. And then the state also added an indicator for English learning learners, progress that they were making on the OTELA. So what the state was looking for is the percent of students who took the OTELA who actually increased their scores by either 1 or 2 points, depending on where their initial scores were. So that was new this year. K-3 literacy, there's nothing new there. We, of course, the on-track status, it's not what percent of kids were on track to begin with, is what percent of kids moved to the on-track status. So they were not on track in the previous year, but then they became on track the following year. ODE looks at what percent of those kids did that. One of the I guess one of the inclusions is that is a demotion score, and what that is if you have third graders who did not pass the test but were not on a reading improvement plan, ODE deducted points from your K-3 literacy score as a result of that. I'm happy to say that we had 0 deductions. That means all of our third graders were properly placed on RIMS. So that helps the overall score. And then, of course, we have our third grade reading guarantee promotion rate. You don't get rated on that. That's not part of the grade, but it is an important element on the report card. Progress, nothing's changed there. We still had 4 subgroups, so to speak, that progress is measured on, and everybody who's the overall group. And for progress, it's based on grades 4 and up. Third grade is not included because you need a previous grade with test scores to be able to use that methodology. Gifted, students with disabilities, and the lowest 20% in achievement. That lowest 20% is for kids who fell in the lowest 20% within the state's distribution of scores. Graduation rate, nothing's changed there. We have a 4-year rate and 5-year rate. Prepare for success, nothing's changed there. What's included in the score is the percent of kids who received an ACT or SAT remediation-free score, percentage of kids who received an honors diploma, and the percent of kids who received industry credentials. And if you met that criteria, out of those kids, you can get bonus points if any of those students received a 3 or higher on 1 or more AP exams, or received a credit of 3 credits in a college credit course. But those are the bonus. You have to do one of the first 3 in order to qualify for the second.
Okay, here's the fun stuff, the graphs. So I'm going to take you through a series of charts. And what's important here is comparative data. So the report card was just released 2 weeks ago, but it's not looking at how we performed the year before. So what you have in front of you are some bar graphs. So for the performance index, we have showed steady increases, improving K-3 readers. The jump from 2015 to 2017 from 12% to 38%. Our third grade guarantee scores has consistently increased. And then lastly on this chart is our AMO, gap closing. So looking at our subgroups, and we had tremendous gains this year in closing the achievement gap. The next slide is taking all of the test scores in the last 3 years. So you have all of the ELA, English Language Arts, and you see the steady increase from 2015 through 2018. The same for math And we also included the science. And we have been very intentional in teaching our science in the last couple of years there. So we see those gains there. Graduation and prepared for success. So we pretty much remain consistent there for our graduation rate. But what I wanted to highlight was our participation rate in ACT, advanced placement, and dual enrollment credit. Tremendous gains, and that is because of the board's effort and focus on equity, to ensuring that we offered those classes at all of our high schools. The kids are participating. We are challenged with really redesigning our curriculum and ensuring that our kids are prepared. The next slide is the performance index over the last 3 years. Now we have a comparison from the urban 8, so looking at districts that are similar to us. The first slide you are looking at is a percentage of all schools that had a grade C or better. We are at close to 40% and at the top of all of the urban 8 schools there. And I want to take a moment, and we did this here for Mount Airy, but I just want to echo the strength of our neighborhood programs. So in the next slide, you have a list of all of those schools, C or better, and I want to name a few of our neighborhood schools, from Cheviot to Covedale. Evanston was a B. Fairview, Hayes, Hartwell, Hyde Park, Kilgore, Mount Airy, Mount Washington, Pleasant Hill, Roberts, Rockdale Academy, Sailor Park, Westwood, and Taft Elementary. Those are all of our neighborhood programs. We have options. And we are very proud of those schools. We have 3 high schools listed here: Creative and Performing Arts, Clark, and Walnut. The next slide indicates the comparison of the prepared for success. Really almost double, some cases triple gains over the other urban school districts. So really excited, again, from honors diploma, remediation free in ACT or SAT, earning a credential, and scoring a 3 or better on the AP test, a 4 on IB test, and dual enrollment credits. And that's huge. 34% of our kids earning college credit at the high school level. We are really excited. And again, that goes to the focus and intentionality around equity. The next slide is just showing the performance index for all of the urban 8s. We are steady ahead of our counterparts. Next is the K-3 literacy, and we are ahead. Youngstown, the 2015 and 2016, they were really high. I don't know what happened last year that they dropped dramatically, but we have shown tremendous gains and just at a steady pace. And then lastly, for our urban 8, we have the 3rd grade guaranteed promotion score. So this is the highest it has ever been for us at CPS. 98% of our kids were promoted to the 4th grade. Next part is about programs, and we just saw an excellent presentation from Mount Airy. So the next slide is about Vision 2020. And Vision 2020 was really about access to excellent education for all kids. So this first slide, again, the last 3 years, shows 71% of our Vision 2020 1.0 school making gains. We have Cheviot, Hayes, Pleasant Hill, Rothenburg, and Westwood. This was our first year for Vision 2020 2.0, and we have 45% of those schools demonstrating an increase. Frederick Douglass, Rockdale, South Avondale, and Roll Hill. I've also added Spencer Academy. This is their first year, but I thought it was important to also include them in the Vision 2020. For the My Tomorrow for our high schools, 26% of our high schools have shown a steady increase. STEM at Hughes, Euler, Schroeder, and Aiken. So we feel confident that we are on the right track and how to duplicate this excellent work to other schools. But the reality is, so I just gave you the comparison. If you go to the report card, this is what you will see. This is not acceptable. We know this. We are challenged by it, but also inspired and motivated. Today at Mount Airy is a clear example. If we come together as a community, work with our partners, have high expectations for all students, support our teachers with rich professional development, and come to the table and collaborate, we can see growth. We have demonstrated that in our programming through Vision 2020 and My Tomorrow, and we are excited about our future. Emily Campbell will come up and talk to you about our next steps.
So we do want to be the best at getting better, and so we as a curriculum department are working on 4 major projects in order to do that. Our first one is around collaborating with our teachers around, on curriculum and professional development, unpacking the skills and knowledge with our teachers on a regular basis, and then connecting it with our Vision 2020 program so that our students are experiencing learning in different ways. We are also in the high school space working with our Algebra 1 and English 1 teachers across buildings so that if a teacher is the only Algebra 1 teacher, they can work with other Algebra 1 teachers with around the city to unpack the skills and knowledge, to look at student work, to analyze growth over time and scale the good work that is happening. We have also partnered with Children's Hospital, Menominee Falls, and Strive Partnership to scale our quality improvement work. We started this with our pioneer teachers 2 years ago. We scaled that up to our trailblazers, and this year kicked off with our 150 Pathfinder teachers at the zoo. We are working with our teachers around a shared decision-making model using the curriculum that Menominee Falls has used for years, Children's Hospital has used, and co-creating a CPS quality improvement model. We have also lots and lots of data that we can use. And to help our teachers put that in a one-stop place, we have a pilot with Performance Matters. And this allows teachers and buildings to look at multiple pieces of data to inform their practice and give children the chance to use various tech-enhanced items that they will have to use on the Ohio State tests and end-of-course exams. And our final big project that we are working on is through convening an AP steering committee. So we want to make sure that we are preparing our students from the youngest of ages to be college and career ready. And this team has been convened to engage our students earlier in middle school to start preparing them for the rigorous AP courses, to identify the best instructional practices to achieve in our advanced placement classes, and to create high quality PD for our teachers of advanced placement.
So the last thing we would like to leave you with, and we stole this quote from Lee Carter at Children's, and really we want to be the best at getting better. We are committed to this work, and we just thank you for allowing us to present the information, and we're ready to take any questions.
Okay, we'll start over here and just move down the line, if that's okay. Mr. Morosky.
First of all, belated kudos to all of you for putting this together and showing it to us. It really helps to tell the story accurately. As we all know, the state report card is largely faulty and paints a picture of our district that's not real, and it can be frustrating. And so I appreciate the work you did to distill this in such a way that it helps to make the case that we are doing work that is really, really not only important, but we're doing it better than anybody else. So kudos to all of you. Thank you for all of this. I had one question, and I know a lot of people want to talk, so I'll just ask one question. I assume that the percentages, and Emily, bear with me, you know I'm not good at math. The percentages are obviously out of the whole. So I was just curious, and I know there's a reason. So at third grade, the proficiency 3 to 8, everything is getting higher every year, but it's going down total. And I was just curious what you thought, in your professional opinion, why that was the case. So like in third grade, 60.1%. Yeah, you see what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And I have a hypothesis for that.
I figured you did.
The standard at third grade is really at a basic level. So when our kids hit that mark, they really need to be at an advanced accelerated score to be prepared for what they're going to encounter in fourth grade. So we are working with children and looking at some, I don't know the math term. What is it? We're looking at regression models to just really trigger so we can come up with our own score to tell third grade teachers, this is the mark you need to hit to be prepared for fourth grade.
Mr. Messer.
I just wanted to say thank you for this in-depth review, and you know, as one of the newer members of the board, and sitting in this seat and then having people in public ask questions about it, this is great information to have. And while I bring diversity to the board, that not having a deep education background, you could give this to anybody in business, and these are growth trends that would be celebrated in any company. So I just want to say thank you to the administration for the work around equity, that it's not just the schools that maybe you would assume, it's our neighborhood schools that help drive the neighborhood development and growth that we're seeing across the city. While that grade, maybe it's not where we want to be, but I think this tells such a great story of our leadership, and it does start with our superintendent, our deputy superintendent, the team, all of our amazing teachers out there that are making these scores a reality. So thank you for putting this together, and thank you for everything you're doing to make this the best district in Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Is it Dr. Amott?
No.
Miss Amott.
Miss Amott.
I'm sorry. I used to call Miss Mitchell Dr. Mitchell like for years. And she used to have to stop me all the time. So if I make a mistake,
That's okay.
Miss Amott,
Yeah.
just know that that's what I think of you. This page under the Urban 8 comparison, 2017, 2018, prepare for success. I'm looking at Cincinnati going across, and then Cincinnati's also highlighted in green. And when you were talking, you were talking about the green numbers, but I'm not understanding how I can understand the other city numbers. Like if I look at this and I see Columbus City Schools, and I look at earning industry.
Yes.
Okay.
The green is indicating the highest score.
So
Okay.
our scores are straight across still?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
So just another, I'm going to do a kudos. We had the most green out of all of these components.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Copeland Dansby.
Well, of course, thank you for your work. That goes without saying, and not to belabor the issue. Vision 2020 and My Tomorrow have been an amazing success in the district, and that goes without saying. That's tried and true. I can't wait to see where we're going next. My concern is we've still got a long way to go. And I appreciate you guys accepting that and stating that, and I've seen that all over. It's in all of our communication, and it's my favorite talking point too. But just in the reality of it, we've got a very long way to go. So I love the initiatives that you have put in place where you're moving forward. I want to particularly talk about our work as it relates to ACT and AP. While the report card, is a great measuring tool in that, we really know what it is, boots on the ground. And we know what it takes to have our kids prepared for college and for life beyond high school. And in my opinion, you're dead on, you're right on with doing the great things that you're doing. So I'm going to be most interested in how we take these exceptionally high increases in the Prepare for Success, the ACT prep, AP placement, and dual enrollment prep. Like, how do we take that even to the next level too?
And at this point, we are starting a steering committee made up of teachers, administrators, our assistant principals of instruction, and Kayla, who's our college manager, is facilitating the work there. So some of it is early identification of students, and right now we're just gathering the data to have discussion. I know some people don't like social media, but on social media and Twitter, there were teachers tweeting about the growth and the gains in their scores. So I tweeted back, and we met several. It was teachers from Dater and West. Who else was in there? What are you in there with me? And just, I think that's where it starts. It's really the people who are in front of kids and saying, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. And those teachers accepted the invitation to sit on this committee so we can be systematic in our approach.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. So, two, in your initiative where you're working with the professional development you talked about, I'm curious as to where cultural competence, like really intent cultural competence training, if you will, folds into that. And you don't have to answer that now, but the community component that we're doing, the awesome work you're doing on curriculum and academics, coupled with how we're really intently making sure that our teachers and our professionals can meet the needs of our kids, we've got a win-win. So I am nowhere near complaining. I just, I want to encourage you to keep going. It's great to be the best of the urban aid or what have you. I've never been satisfied with that.
That's right.
We have to be the best of all. So
Yes.
thank you for your work.
Ms. Bates?
Yes, I would like to ask you to do some additional data for us because, and I say this every year, but I'll give you a break because you're new.
Okay, I'll take it.
Take it.
Okay.
I want to see a comparison of us with Southwest Ohio districts because people aren't leaving here to go to Cleveland or Dayton. I mean, our competition, it's the Oak Hills, it's the Mount Healthies, it's Princeton's, the Winton Woods. That's what I want to see a comparison of. I think that's more pertinent quite frankly, than the other urban districts. So if you can, grab that data and present, you don't have to present it, but give it to us in our packets, I think that would be very informative to see how we're doing as a region and how we compare.
Okay.
Second that.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mrs. Bolton.
Yes, and as this is our perpetual annual point and counterpoint, Ms. Bates and Ms. Bolton, absolutely, our competitors geographically are the 21 other school districts in Hamilton County. But our comparables have to be those schools whose districts reflect many of our particular service needs in our particular demographic. So I appreciate this, and in this area, about comparing the grade 8 and what have you, we don't even have an IB program, so that one kind of gets discounted for all intents and purposes. Every place else we're leading or in the number 2 or what have you. I think that's very important, and if we're going to compare ourselves to the suburban districts, it would be much more relevant, as a person that spent 36 years teaching Wyoming children, it would be much more relevant to compare particular schools in those particular districts, because that's when you can begin to actually see the demographic pieces. And indeed, what you're finding in Hamilton County is that districts are sliding. And they're sliding in part because they do not know what to do with the changing demographics in their own experience. So I always complain about this report card, although when I like it, I'm going to be excited about parts of it. But the reality is that this report card measures wealth.
Yep. Yes.
Period. And all you have to do is look at the 600 and some school districts and who got A's and who didn't. And so you have the measurement of wealth. But what I do like about the way you all have approached it, first, thank you for even doing this, because we've spent 5 years ignoring the report card externally.
Mm-hmm.
And the board really was operating at a disadvantage, not having our experts tell us about this. I mean, that was sort of a public relations approach to this, I think. This is helpful, and it informs us. For example, look at what we can do regarding career credentialing, because we're not leading. If we're not leading, then that means we're following, and we don't follow in this district. On a larger scale, real quickly, looking at the whole report card besides what you've presented, I continue to be worried about curriculum at 4, 5, and 6. I am, and Emily heard this last week, I'm a true believer that curriculum is what we do not do, not this district, but the world doesn't use it as a real way to improve the achievement gap and to inspire children to get ready for high school and those middle grades. But on the bigger piece of it, this kind of effort helps us understand what we need and what you can advise us that we need and what we need to be spending money on. So this is very helpful. I have been concerned about the gifted piece, and I'm concerned as to how we went from the tip top of value added just a few years ago to where on this report card it looks like we're not doing the value added piece. So it would be great, just even in a memo form, to have somebody explain to us how the state changed whatever they were doing when they found out that Cincinnati and Indian Hill were the top value added districts in the state. So once again, once we establish effectiveness, they change the report card. Once we're the number 1 or 2 in value added, they change the report card. So these things happen, but I am worried about that. And then just for the wider community, when people look at some of the financial data and some of the description of the district, and they look at the staffing, we don't show up as well as we should in those areas where we probably have to, and I don't know if we've reported wrong or we're being held against some sort of standard, but in those areas we need to kind of look and see how we might be presenting to the public, since in November of 19, for 3 successive years, we have renewals. And that kind of data is not going to help us. This data will help us because you've got an activist board that wants to share the good news. And that's great, but some of that, look at some of that stuff, because that kind of is rough stuff.
Yes. Mr.
But
Messer.
thank you.
Yeah, I just have one more question. Is there a built-in process where we're looking across the state or even the country to say, you know, yes, we can put a steering committee here and come up with an index and do this and that type of thing, which I think is all great. But is there also a process built in where we're going to say, that program seems to have nailed it, and we're going to go there and we're going to take a team in, benchmark, that type of thing? I was just curious if that was a part of the process.
Yes, so what we're doing, and we just started this last year through SAC, with the push to really start using that time to investigate and research curricula. So we did that process with social studies. This year, we are doing that with English, language arts, and writing. We felt that that was the place to start if kids have a solid foundation. ODE has an evaluative tool when you're looking at curriculum. A lot of the programs are nationally known to look for that, but I think our work is really starting around is what is our philosophy around teaching kids how to read, the importance of writing. So that's what we're working through now, and we work with our instructional councils. So we have a tool to measure the effectiveness of programs, where we're leading, so we'll come back to SAC early of the school year in 2019 to share some of that information. But where they're headed is really getting textbooks into the classrooms and not the Basil, the old school anthology textbooks, of really having an excitement around literacy and the purpose of literacy. So that's just a sneak peek of the discussion of what is happening now, of getting some trade books, and they can do author studies. So we are really kind of fine-tuning our approach to literacy, and we're using a tool to guide that, and there are plenty of districts that we can visit once we narrow it down.
Yeah, and so I think that's all great. I think just as a non-educator,
yes,
of course you'll get the curriculum and all that stuff. I always think about what else are they doing? Is there something about their culture? Is there something about how they've engaged their teachers in very creative ways that a team goes in and says, wow, here's what we came back, here's our top 5 takeaways.
Yeah.
And we do this where we benchmark teams across the country within my organization, and often it comes back something that's a big surprise that we didn't know really had any impact on their results, but it made all the difference in their area, and we said, then how can we replicate that? So,
thanks, Ryan. That's a great advice.
So if I could just chime in here. We are not interested in just benchmarking against other urban districts. And so we sent a team to Menominee Falls. Our deputy superintendent went, I went, our curriculum director went, and Menominee Falls is a higher performing suburban school district who does work around continuous improvement. And so we went there and we looked at their work, and we're implementing some of the things. And they came here and have done two workshops here for our teachers this school year. In addition, as we built out the components of My Tomorrow, they were really benchmarked against what are high-performing districts doing as it relates to AP, as it relates to ACT, as it relates to career readiness. And so we are not, quite honestly, looking at what the other urban districts are doing across the nation, but benchmarking against high-performing districts in general.
Ms. Bolton?
Yeah, just one thing or two. Again, benchmarking against similar districts or cohorts of a particular district type as us helps inform what we're doing. It shouldn't lead what we're doing. So I think that's important. And just on a personal note, you talked about developing AP PD. Please, please do what the suburbs do, which is send our teachers that are teaching AP to the college boards, regardless of the cost, because then they will be with peers that are teaching the same thing, and the rigor of that curriculum is far superior than anything any of us can come up with. So it's worth the cost, and it does change professional perspective.
And a couple of years ago, we did do that, but we'll look at reexamining how we might do that again. And then we also started to host workshops here in the district where we brought all the AP teachers together with some AP teachers from Indian Hill High School. And so, yeah, we'll continue and expand that work.
Great. And in closing, I again want to thank you all for the wonderful presentation, but I want to say, make one pretty sort of overarching comment, and that is one of the things that I am totally impressed by this is that what I hear is a filter for equity, that everything that has been done to get to here is about looking through the lens of equity. And equity is where we want the systemic change. That's what we want. And so I know, you know, we have for those in the community, we are currently in the process of a strategic planning process. And I just had a bit of a conversation in sort of passing this morning with Ms. Bolton about how our strategic plan, as we move forward in this progress with the strategic plan, that it really is about how we look at equity and in terms of changing what we do. We've got all the components there. We just need to fill in the gaps. And all the questions that people are asking and talking about, it's all about how do we individualize? How do we get our kids here? What do we want to do? That's what equity is. And so my final statement, and I'm going to ask Ms. Bolton for her help, because it had to do with the report card. And she said, and help me, Ms. Bolton, you said we do not have failing schools. We have
poorly rated schools.
And I'm just going to leave that. It's food for thought. So thank you again.
Thank you. Very good.
Okay, we're ready to move on. Ms. Bolton, would you
Yes.
please present the resolution?
Thank you, and we're all familiar with these sorts of resolutions, so resolve that we will approve students eligible for subsidy reimbursement in lieu of transportation for the 2018-2019 school year. And I move and hope for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
Mr. Morosky?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Thank you. Okay, under board matters, the first topic, it should be Ms. Bolton. And each of these topics, I think, won't require a lot. I mean, I think there were some questions that people had. So, Ms. Bolton, you want to do that first one?
I know that there's been some discussion about perhaps coming up with a name, if you will, for the now Clifton Area Neighborhood School, and that needs to happen reasonably soon. I know that there's been discussion about our preschools and how to approach that as part of the rebranding of the district. And I also know that there's been at least a couple of efforts to think in terms of finding a name for some other schools. Particularly, a name has occurred to us as to perhaps somebody worthy of having a school named for them. But I just thought we should review the naming process, which we do have a policy. Yep. And so I just would encourage the board to do that. And I would also suggest too that I know that there's an interest from the West High community indeed to rename the softball field. And that does require, we all know, board action, and hopefully we will, when the family's prepared and ready, Gabby's family is ready for that, I think we probably will need to be able to do that. And just remembering the precedent even last year of renaming, I think it was the Schroeder Gym. So whether it's a building or a particular part of the facility, it goes through the board, and the board probably needs to have the administration start to help us get ready as to what schools or what facilities those would be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis did provide us, should have been at your seat, a copy of the policy related to the naming of school buildings. So we might want to reference that, and then at an appropriate time, we can have a full board discussion. Is there anything else regarding that topic? Okay, Mr. Messers stepped out. I was going to ask him to present the Lighthouse Community School Dialogue. So let's move on. We'll come back to that. Superintendent Mitchell, do you have a report?
I do have a report, but I'm driving blindly right now, so I can't see what's really on the screen over there. So, great. Hopefully Lauren will help me out. I only have a couple of slides. I want to continue just to put in front of the board our children and what's happening within our schools. And so the first picture you should see, maybe, is Silverton Paideia School. Has been a leader in our district around the Leader in Me philosophy, and now they have joined the ranks of Vision 2023.0 with a digital focus, a digital leadership academy. And so you'll be able to see on the screen some pictures of our kids. They did a really nice ribbon cutting with the principal along with board member Bates and Morawski. And so just really want to put in front of you what our kids are doing in terms of technology. Is that up yet? Okay. It was really good. Also wanted to highlight United Way charitable giving. So last week we kicked off our United Way campaign at central office. This is for our employees, and so last year as an employee group we raised $22,000 for United Way, and this year we led with a bigger campaign, and we had cheerleaders from our high schools come out and cheer on our kind of a pep rally for our charitable giving. And so we're setting the bar at $44,000 this year, and so we're just asking people to support United Way as we think about all of the good works that United Way, that they do for our schools, for our kids. United Way supports many of the organizations who are in our buildings, as well as providing food, shelter, and clothing for our young people. We will kick off within the next couple of weeks a student-led campaign at the high schools. So our collaboratives, 3 collaboratives in each of our high schools will lead a campaign. The MORE group, Girls to Women, and Philanthropy and Service Learning. And so we want to get our young people in the mode of contributing to this great cause. Just kind of an FYI, in previous years, our Jump Rope for Heart campaign, elementary school students, they raised $66,000. Kids, little kids. And so we are really trying to up the ante in terms of what we're giving as our high school students lead our campaigns, as well as at the Ed Center and throughout the district. Yes, Jump Rope for Heart, $66,000. And then last but not least, Winton Hills Academy, is that up? Yes? No? Okay. No. Winton Hills Academy, there's a beautiful picture, I'll pass it around. 5 students from Winton Hills, they won a national contest through the National Youth Foundation for books that they authored and illustrated. Absolutely beautiful books. We'll make sure that you all are able to see a copy of the books. The winners received $500, and copies of their published books will be passed out. And so we're just really super excited about the work that's happening at Winton Hills Academy. Thank you.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I missed who moved and who seconded.
Who seconded?
I seconded.
Thank you. Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Messer?
Aye.
Mr. Morawski? President Jones?
Aye. Thank you. So Mr. Messer has returned. So we want to go back to the
Had a
board
necessary
matter.
break.
Yeah, to the board matter subject on Lighthouse Community School.
Yes, this was really just, I know that at least in the Finance Committee, we received a letter from Lighthouse, which over time has been a great partner with CPS, and I think we can all agree they do tremendous work in our community. And so as follow-up to that letter, I was going to make the recommendation that maybe we ask them to come in and present an update to the board at our next meeting, so that we can have a much broader understanding of Lighthouse, and then an understanding of then the details in the request that we received. And I think that went to the entire board. No? Okay. So we should probably make
Okay.
sure we share the letter as well.
Okay, well, I think did everybody get a copy of the letter in their packet? Okay, Ms. Bolton, did you have a question or comment?
I have a couple of questions. I was concerned by a part of the letter which talked about that Lighthouses allows for a valve to be released, or provides us an opportunity to send some of our kids into a particular place. And I didn't like the tone of that, and my concern on the Lighthouse piece, and I know that our unions, our teachers union, according to that letter, is supporting it. I also know that there's tremendous support for Lighthouse in the community, but it's my understanding that we were kind of out of the charter business. And I don't know how we pick and choose which charters. I mean, there are a number of schools that probably help us out and help our kids out. What's the difference between giving people a school money based upon the head count or based upon the kids receiving services versus us giving money to a particular school? I know we extended it even after the state told us we couldn't do charters anymore. We extended it for at least 1, maybe 2 years to make sure there was money there. This is money that's a particular check that goes in support and has for any number of years, but we also have places where we pay for individual schools to take care of particular head counts, if you will, because they offer services we can't. Or to me, I'm much more comfortable talking about a Lighthouse in that way rather than necessarily continuing the financial support for the school itself.
So, okay, go ahead, Ms. Bates.
Right, and I mean, we had a similar situation with the other charter school that we could no longer sponsor, Carpe Diem, and we told them no, you know, and to turn around and say yes to another school, it seems to me that we set a precedent, and $300,000 would go a long way. That's 4 teachers. And again, where was the accountability for the money that we were sending to Lighthouse? I know that, you know, Lighthouse is a very worthy organization and people in the community love them, and they, I'm sure they do great work. We just, you know, right now, we're asking them to come in and present to us, but I don't remember, you know, presentations on academics or, you know, any kind of accountability for the money we had been giving them when we were sponsoring them.
Did you have a comment, Ms. Copeland-Dansby? Okay. I was wondering, I was a little bit concerned about this conversation just because I wasn't sure if we were going into let's support Lighthouse or a contractual thing, which we probably wouldn't want to have that conversation right now. I do think, I kind of agree on one point that before we do invite a presentation, that we really need to have a conversation amongst ourselves, perhaps as a contractual issue, because I would want to see how we spend that money, how we spend what we give. I do understand that they serve a very unique population of young people who have highly specialized needs. And what I've heard in our conversation is that this is a population that probably would not do well or fare well in a traditional school setting. And we talked about if this is something that we wanted to continue as part of an arrangement with Lighthouse. So I said all that to say, before we invite to a presentation, I would concur that we need to have a more full conversation or a different conversation, probably in amongst ourselves in exec session. Yes, Ms. Copeland-Dansby.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the need to have a deeper level of conversation, and President Jones is correct. We've had conversations and presentations by Lighthouse in the past. We've also had presentations from Carpe Diem and other charter stuff in the past. So I need to understand, and perhaps our superintendent or administration can help us understand, what is the level of service that Lighthouse provides? I think it's some partial hospitalization and some pretty significant case management, social services, and that. So it's more rigorous than what I think we provide support to any other space. So, you know, before we jump to conclusion, I think I need to understand more.
Yes,
Yes.
Superintendent.
So I can provide you with the memo that outlines all of the services that they provide. The students who attend Lighthouse, all their needs are met right there at that location, whether it's therapy services or academic services as well. It is a niche group of students who are pretty well served at Lighthouse. I also just want to highlight and be able to outline for you that on the Ohio School Report Card for last school year, there are 4 main categories for community schools. And in 2 of those categories, Lighthouse was rated on 3 of the categories. One is on high school test passage rate isn't one that they're rated on. Closing the gap is an area that they're rated on. I'm sorry, they're not rated on that one either. Progress, they actually exceeded standards on that measure. So the progress component looks closely at the growth that the students are making during the school year. It's value added overall. And on graduation, they met the standard there. So just to give you that information, I'd be happy to outline all the services along with a copy of the report from the Ohio Department of Education.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton.
One thing too about that report card, it's my understanding that Lighthouse has changed the category that it once was in. It has become, I think, in order to meet state standards or what have you, it's is a credit recovery school now, and considered that rather than what we have invested in all this time regarding that niche service. And one of the reasons that I'm concerned looking at that report card of theirs is that there weren't necessarily enough different groups. There wasn't enough demographic difference at Lighthouse to even measure some of the subgroups. So that was of concern to me too. So I echo, I think it's important what the chairman has brought up from finance, that we need to talk about it together and we need to have administration help us learn more about it. But it's a different situation, and the state has made that happen, not Lighthouse. But once again, something that was working and good for children has been changed by virtue of state mandates or what have you for them to survive, very frankly.
Yep. So, Mr. Morosky?
Just a quick point of clarification. I believe I'm right, but I just need to hear it from the superintendent. Irregardless of sponsorship or not, we still are cutting checks for around $7,000 for the students at Lighthouse, regardless. No matter what we end up talking about or hearing about, right?
Yes, but we don't actually, excuse me, we don't actually cut checks. The state foundation deducts it off of our payment.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. I just wanted to double check that.
Go ahead, Ms. Bates.
But they're asking for money over and above that. Right, right. If they're a charter school, they get what charter schools get.
Right.
So I think what I hear the board saying is that we want to gather more information, so we have more information, and that we perhaps have this as another full board conversation before we decide next steps, which could potentially be presentation if that's the direction we decide. Okay. Anything else about that subject? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll. Mr. Davis, I'm sorry.
I just had a quick question, just lack of my own lack of knowledge. On the Community Reinvestment Act agreements, what is the Bond Hill Roseland Senior Housing Project?
I saw that too.
This is all the information I have on that agreement.
Okay.
Is that it? Okay. All right.
Excuse me.
Ms. Copeland Dansby?
I think we would like to have some information related to it,
On-
because it stood out to me as well,
Can-
the Roseline Senior Housing Development.
We will look into it.
Right.
It's in our community.
Okay. So the report has been presented. This is a motion to approve. Is there a second with the request in place to respond to that particular issue? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
No on 8 and I on the rest.
Ms. Bolton?
Ms.
Ms.
Bolton.
Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Yes, except for 8B, until I have more information.
Mr. Davis?
Eye on everything but 8.
All of 8 or just 8B? All of 8 or just 8B?
I'm sorry, just 8B.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Messer?
Aye.
Mr. Morosky?
Aye.
President Jones?
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Are there any inquiries and updates? Mr. Messer?
Okay, so I have two. One is, I know that the last meeting, we discussed the issue of school nurses. And so two things. The one, and I think this is the right form for this, right? So is there an inquiry about school nurse at Walnut Hills? And as we do with constituent work, had a parent reach out to me. The child was actually going to come, and he didn't because he had to leave school because he had a health emergency related to his juvenile diabetes. And so, so that was one question. If we could just start with that, and then maybe the part B of that is then, do we have a district-wide standard for school nurses in each of our buildings?
Yes, so I'm going to start the answer, and I'm going to ask Susan Bunty to step to the microphone. Specifically, I saw your email regarding Walnut Hills, and so I did ask about it. So a personnel request has been made to be able to add that position to the school, and it is in the process of being approved so that we can have a health assistant at the school.
Yes, so Marilyn Crumpton approved it very quickly, so hopefully we will make sure that we are working that it's working its way through the process. As to your second part of your question, do we have a standard way of looking at school nurses and student health assistants across the district? The answer is yes. So Marilyn Crumpton, who sits with our Board of Health, she advises and supports that work. We look on, and there are a variety of different points to determine which support schools receive. So it's numbers of students who are diabetic within the school, number of students with asthma, total population of the school, poverty index, and different factors such as those.
And do we have an official policy? I couldn't find it in my little binder, but is there a policy on who can administer medications?
We do have
to,
one, yes.
To
yes.
children?
Yes.
And
I don't
is it a
know the number.
trained healthcare professional?
It can be someone who is trained, and so that training for our student health assistance is provided by the Board of Health.
Okay.
So they go extra days at the front end of the school year.
Yeah, and my question is much more about a risk management liability, where at least I think in the case of this child, if they were to have an issue, it would have been a school secretary during this interim, and I can't imagine that if I were in a school secretary role and somebody said I had to administer an EpiPen or deal with somebody's blood glucose monitor not working appropriately or their pump, I pretty much say that's out of my job description.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
I think that's something that maybe if we could look at when
So-
there is a gap like Walnut Hills, that there is a short-term solve with somebody who's a trained professional.
So what's required so we follow what's required, which means that there have to be people trained within the school to help support students with diabetic care. But I understand completely what you're saying, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then the other, again, being a newer member of the board, you know, I've learned this in one of my visits to kick off the school year at one of the schools, and then I think we heard it a little bit tonight. But I'm just curious, in what situations and how prevalent would it be that 7th and 8th graders, for example, in the example shared today, would be put into the same classroom across the district because of the way we would need to balance students to teachers? Is that something that's common, or is that a nuance?
So I'd have to look at it school by school, but I would say at the K-8 buildings, 7th and 8th graders are separated in terms of their coursework. I would have to find out the specifics regarding Ms. Sellers' claim around the combination classrooms. She expressed to me several weeks ago that there was some overcrowdingness taking place at West High. And so I asked Bill Miles, the assistant superintendent for that school, to go out and look at it, and he did. I then heard it again, so I asked Paul McDowell, the HR director, to go out and literally do a head count, and he did. So this new, or what she's talking about in terms of combination classrooms, I'm totally unaware of, and would be more than happy to work with Ms. Sellers on this issue. Had I known this before the meeting, I would have worked with her prior to this meeting today. I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see a hand over here?
Just on the school nurses, going back to something I said earlier, you know, on the actual report card for the district, school nurses is one of the things where we, at least the way it's been reported, that we are short. There's like 19 categories of personnel. There's only 5 that we are at the state standards. It's impossible for me to believe that that reporting is correct, especially when it says we don't even have enough teacher aides and we have our parapros and whatever. So I'm also, on the Walnut Hills thing, I think there's interesting reportage on Walnut Hills from a standpoint of even students with disabilities. It's the lowest possible number one could come up with. Just demographically, it's impossible that there are that many children and that's such a low percentage of kids with particular learning disabilities. So I think there's some funny stuff about the Walnut piece from a standpoint that we do need to kind of look at the numbers at Walnut. Thank you.
Okay. Other inquiries or updates? I have one final one. And you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but ACE's meeting is confirmed for, but there's something that has come up. That's why I'm bringing it. ACE's meeting has been confirmed on my part for October 9th, which is the day after a evening board meeting for from 1:30 to 3. Now, I'm getting some pushback on that because it was stated that there was an agreement that we would do it in the early evening, and they said, it was said that I did that, but I look back, I keep all my emails, and there's never been an agreement. But that they wanted it at AWL because of the health hub, because they wanted to bring the health commissioner, and they wanted it early evening. Now, here's what I feel about that. On that day, we have 2 people who already won't be here, unless somebody else is not gonna be. You won't be here?
I'm leaving for my son's
So
wedding.
so we're gonna have 4 people. We could either do, there's several options here. We can hold the meeting with a firm 1:30 to 3 in the ILS at the district. This is our meeting that we're hosting. Or we don't have to have it if people feel we don't need to have it. I mean, the topics are pretty much redundant, in my opinion. But again, I don't know, what is the pleasure of the board? Do we want to continue with the meeting? And if so, do we continue at the time that's scheduled? Yes.
What is the value in the health commission conversation?
That's their item that they wanted to add to the agenda.
Okay.
They have believe me, and I don't want to start complaining, but they have a litany of agenda items to do, and we can't possibly, we're going to have to prioritize them. Mr. Morosky.
So I do see the value in the new health commissioner, like seeing what goes on in our schools. It'd be nice if, they were aware of what we were doing. I don't know that that has to happen as a photo op with the Board of Education. I'm not going to be here, so I guess my opinion doesn't matter one way or the other, but it doesn't strike me as very important to have this meeting at this time. I think what would be more interesting and maybe a worthwhile use of our time would be to have a very frank discussion among us 7 regarding the future of ACES, and if we continue to do it, and if we do, what that looks like.
We were hoping to try to put it on the work session agenda.
Well, then we'll have an ACES meeting after our work session.
That works for me. Any thoughts on that?
I agree. I think we have to, and I think I was part of the creation of ACES, but it is, instead of being a working group to resolve problems, I can think of 9 problems between and among us that they've not helped resolve. So obviously, a photo op is not going to help me. I think we do have to invite, I don't know if the superintendent's had an opportunity to meet with the health commissioner. I know she was excited, the health commissioner was excited about meeting with you. And so that's happened, and she wants to tour. She doesn't need to go to a facility that's not yet open or about to be opened or whatever, or have that kind of whatever. I mean, I think we do need to discuss whether or not to continue ACES, or instead of the ACES piece, talk in terms of having some sort of work group between the school board and the council instead of a PR thing to be broadcast or pictures taken.
I sometimes believe groups outlive their purpose, their original purpose, and I think we're at that point now, and we do need to reevaluate our relationship and how we structure those discussions. Okay, I'll sleep easy tonight. Okay.
Until you talk to them.
Till the next time, right? Are there any assignments?
Oh, excuse me, I have my hand up for inquiries and updates.
Okay.
I've got
Mr.
two.
Davis.
I've got 2 inquiries and 1 requested update. My first inquiry is about how to get MERP extended. I don't know the process that I would need to go through if asking administration to reconsider MERP.
So if I could speak to that, or would you rather I hold it?
Yes.
Okay. So MERP was negotiated with all 6 unions during contract negotiations, and there was a benefits committee that was formed with representatives from the unions. During contract negotiations, the unions and that committee agreed not to extend MERP. So quite honestly, very transparently, Debbie Lang, I guess, who is the facilitator of MERP, I don't know exactly the organization she works for, came to meet with me, and I expressed to her that this was something that was contract negotiated. This is a part of what the board and the unions agreed to. I did express to her that an opportune time to bring this back up would be when contracts are up to be renegotiated. Contracts will be open again in January, but that's only for salary. And so during the next contract cycle would be the time to bring it up. I did tell her that I had some grave concerns regarding trying to overturn a decision that was made by the unions in collaboration with the board. So we did, however, agree to extend MERP for this school year for those 160 employees who are currently on MERP.
It was my understanding that MERP was still in the bargaining agreements that the district had with the unions.
So if I could have legal counsel and HR director come to the podium to explain exactly what the agreement was or is.
So in contract negotiations, as Superintendent Mitchell said, the benefits committee discussed MERP. Benefits committee discusses a lot of the healthcare issues. We took to the board a recommendation that we negotiate MERP out of our contracts. There was a language in one of the contracts that still has MERP indicated, but not in all the others. And Ms. Lang brought that up to us, and we explained that to her during the meeting. But the overall consensus is that we would eliminate MERP originally. And as Superintendent Mitchell said, we did extend it for 1 year, which was this year.
So we thanked Ms. Lang for pointing it out that the language was still in existence, and we would make that correction.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Did you
We
have
had a
another
second.
comment? I thought you said an inquiry and an update.
I've got another inquiry and a requested update. My
Okay.
second inquiry is, can somebody get me the policy for student athletes attending a school that doesn't offer a specific sport? And can they go to another school to play that sport? I've been asked that question at least 40 times in my 4 months on the school board.
Actually, Mr. Davis, Mr. Miles might be a good person to talk to about that. He worked on that last year. We had this conversation several times.
Do we have a policy as to
He
that?
can, yeah, and also Ms. Davis can pull, or somebody, or Pat can
That's-
pull from our.
That's
yeah.
perfect. I'll do
Okay.
both. I'll do both. I'll hit Pat and Ms. Davis and Mr. Miles.
Okay.
My last thing was an update on safety at South Avondale.
So, Mr. Adams, if you could speak to that.
Well, at least pretty much all the administration has been up behind the podium tonight.
It's a good meeting. We'll get Scott up there. I know it's a good meeting.
Well, yeah. I think I might have Ralph speak more specifically to it, but when you brought it up, I spoke with Ralph, and we contacted CPD and talked to them. As far as I know, that it's not a hangout spot anymore. The teachers aren't intimidated to walk out there, but I don't have the latest information. But Ralph may.
Sergeant Sean George is the neighborhood sergeant up in that area. I just spoke with him today. What they were trying to do is gather information on who the individuals were. They've received some information. They have what they call 305, which is directive patrol for the police to constantly keep checking that area. If they make any arrest, he's going to contact me, and I'll be sure to let you know.
Does that address your concern for now?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. I think Ms. Copeland Dan will speak to it later. Thank you.
Are you speaking? I'm sorry. Assignments, okay. All right, Ms. Bolton.
Just based upon what Member Davis has said, I have for now 8 months, I think, said that I do value MERP, and I do appreciate the 160 or whatever people that are on it, and especially with what we're trying to do with HR and making employees have great comfort level about virtually everything and helping them with their families and safety and security and what have you. I just still don't understand why we're getting rid of it, or why we've only been able to extend it and not open it up. I'm having trouble understanding that, and I would hope that maybe we could revisit it from a standpoint of if the unions are still opposed to it, or I've always worried about the fact that by the time the board gets to decide anything, the benefits committee's already decided it. So to me, that's an issue. But I would second what Member Davis has said, that I think there's great value to maintaining MERP and extending it if people want it.
All righty. Other, is that it? Inquiries and updates? Assignments? I don't know who was first. Mr. Morosky?
I would like to make an assignment to the administration and to council, legal counsel, to begin drafting up a resolution opposing House Bill 658. I don't need to read anything else. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's Representative Brinkman's bill that would force teachers and administrators to out transgender students. Obviously, we can talk about it in policy and student achievement and all that, but I'd like to just get working on that. I don't know if there's much more we need to hear. We know it's bad for kids. And so there's already a draft over that Phyllis has, so that's my assignment.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Well,
Messer?
good minds think alike, so that was one. And then part two, and this is just almost just like a thought. Since there was this group of parents who had children at Walnut Hills that had health issues, maybe an update. You know, I get these nice things from North Avondale that they give us our weekly updates. Maybe if they do that at Walnut Hills, they could say something about and we'd like to announce our new blah, blah, blah. I think it would slow down my email and phone call traffic. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Copeland Dansby?
There is a communication that comes out from Walnut to the general community called the parent update or something like that. So you might want to make sure people are getting that. I'd like to make an assignment. I'm so sorry. Make an assignment to our administration to help the board understand what Cincinnati Police Department is responsible for as it relates to safety outside of our school buildings and in the general community. We had a presentation from the police chief, former police chief, maybe Ms. Bolton 2 years ago, who talked to us with lots of wonderful promises of increased patrol cars. We're back to the issue with school crosswalking guards. And someone asked me, and I didn't know the answer to this, you know, are there uniformed officers that look after our little people, particularly in the South Avondale School, during the day and or after school? I received a very, very extremely scary video of young people on our school grounds that demonstrates that it's not safe. I haven't shared it with anyone, but I think at this point, I need to understand what our connection is with CPD. It's beyond a school community resource officer. And a lot of the things that I'm hearing and seeing, and Mr. Davis has brought this up the past couple months, it's somewhat probably after hours. I don't know if it's because the weather was warm, I don't know. But if I lived there or if I had a student there, I would be very gravely concerned. And I think it's not your job to tell the police what to do. I want to hear what they're doing for us. And that not just at South Avondale, but in general. And maybe board members, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you might remember those conversations we had, and I don't know if it ever happened. Right.
I know what
Because
happened is
I
the
had
police chief.
advocated for that pretty strongly, and we had even convened some meetings with some data.
That's right.
It was prior to Ms. Mitchell's administration.
It was prior to any of you guys. It's not anyone's fault. That's why I would like to re-engage that, because it's clearly a grave condition. And Mr. Davis, who is the mayor, essentially, of Avondale, has brought this up to us many, many, many times. And what I saw is just disturbing.
Yep. That's sad. Ms.
I
Bolton?
think what happened after the police chief made that presentation is that he was fired by the mayor. So with those things, I'd be surprised if they went ahead and did that. I've never heard anybody from the police department, with the exception of Mr. Rowan himself, that is so supportive of CPS as was the former police chief. And very committed to youth and especially kids that need guidance. So again, this is just as the vice president has said, this is about crossing guards. It's about our folks can't even stand outside the grounds and help direct traffic on dismissal or what have you. It's about crosswalks. It's about everything. And that's why I'm saying about ACEs, there are many, many things that these people should be helping us with, and we could work in partnership. And instead, we are having meetings to be broadcast instead of work to get done.
Thank you. Any other assignments? Okay, once again, thanks to Ms. Roddy and the Mount Airy team. We actually made it out in 2 hours, so thank you again so much. Yes, and having no other business before us, I declare this meeting adjourned.